I don't know about you, but for me, it just keeps getting more and more difficult to get enthusiastic about voting. As an independent in the American electoral process, I'm forced to choose between two candidates. And more often than not, both options kind of stink. And to be honest about it, I've grown tired of always having to vote for the one who stinks less. In the previous 10 presidential elections, there have been exactly 2 times when I voted for a candidate that I was enthusiastic about, and 1 time that I voted for a candidate that I wasn't necessarily jumping up and down about, but it was a choice I could make and not completely hate myself in the morning. The other 7 times, I was voting against a candidate rather than voting for one. It's a rotten process that I've grown weary of. And I'm not alone in feeling this way.
Why are voters so locked in? In a few words, they are unhappy, they are discontented, they are on the way to being miserable, and you can see that in our poll. We asked, are you satisfied with the 2 major party candidates?
I understand that there are consequences to this election. There are always consequences to an election. The blue team will scream, "You can't let the red team win. They're destroying our country." And then the red team will scream, "You can't let the blue team win. They're destroying our country." But what's really destroying our country is a misinformed electorate, our failed 2-party political system, and the dark money that facilitates it. And if 2024 is the most consequential election in American history, and if democracy really is hanging off the edge of a cliff,
And it's the most consequential election in modern history of our country.
well, what brought us to the precipice? 2 political parties who are more interested in playing identity politics, drawing lines in the sand, and refusing to compromise than they are in actually governing. Oh yeah, and that dark money that I mentioned earlier. If you're not familiar, dark money refers to political spending by nonprofit organizations that are not required to disclose where their money is coming from. These organizations help fund super PACs, which emerged following the 2020 Supreme Court decision, which allowed for increased political spending by corporations and labor unions. But unlike regular PACs, super PACs can engage in unlimited political spending on things like negative campaign ads to influence elections. Because the sources of this funding are not disclosed, the money is referred to as dark. This lack of transparency raises serious concerns about the influence of these undisclosed donors on elections and public policy. Super PACs fund activities on both sides of the political spectrum, and they have little to no accountability. I don't know about you, but I find having this dark money influencing our political process to be troubling. Both political parties are fond of quoting the Founding Fathers when it suits their needs. Well, here's a little tidbit that neither party is talking about. The Founding Fathers of the United States did not foresee or endorse the development of our modern 2-party system. In fact, many of them were wary of political parties and factions. Key figures expressed serious concerns about the divisive nature of political parties and their potential to undermine the democratic process. In his farewell address, George Washington warned against the dangers of political parties, stating that they could lead to the alternative domination of one faction over another and the disorders and miseries that result.
What?
He also believed parties could become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men could subvert the power of the people.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
And while James Madison acknowledged the inevitability of factions, he was concerned about their potential to cause instability and injustice. Instead, he advocated for a large republic to dilute the influence of factions and mitigate their harmful effects, much like a modern parliamentary system.
My name is Alexander Hamilton.
Hamilton, though later a leader of the Federalist Party, initially shared concerns about factions and their divisive impact on governance. He believed in a strong central government and feared that partisan conflicts would weaken it. Despite these concerns, political parties began to form almost immediately after the founding of the Republic, primarily due to the differing views on the role and power of the federal government, an argument that continues to this day. The Federalists, led by Hamilton, and the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, emerged as the first major U.S. political parties in the 1790s. Over time, the U.S. political landscape evolved into the two-party, stench-producing system that we have today. So, are there ways to fix this two-party mess? Well, I think there are, but I also think change is unlikely to ever happen because too many people and too much dark money are invested in our current system. So then, what's an independent voter to do? Wait, I've got an idea somewhere. Oh, here it is. I don't think this is helping.